Hi there, I'm, Portal Drew, and not many people know this, but I really like Portal. I know, ladies, one at a time now. But something that has always bothered me, maybe not always, because when I was like 8 and saw this video, it was fine, but, for the past couple of years, I've really hated this game theory video on the Companion Cube, where he claims that the Companion Cube has dead bodies in it. It's such a horrible read, and also, when I was rewatching this, because I was like, maybe this could make a good video idea, I realized that it's way worse than just it being a stupid theory. Like, he ends up lying in it, so, we're gonna go through it. I did skip the first 3 minutes of intro because he's just, he's doing his MatPat thing. And also, before we get into this, I like MatPat as a person. I think his game theory videos suck because, like, if you're into the thing that he is talking about, like, every time I've watched a game theory video on something that I really like, he kind of, like, lies for some reason. I don't know if that's just my bad luck with the things that he covers that happen to be of my interest, but he will just sometimes lie and make up fake evidence for it, so it's just kind of like, whatever, MatPat. I like MatPat as a person. I used to watch a lot of GT Live and stuff like that. I love MatPat, I love Stephanie, I think they're really cute, and I think MatPat's a likable person. I just think he puts out slop. And you know what? It's a hustle, and I can't argue with it, but let's just go through this video, because I've talked with normal people who aren't that into Portal, where they'll just be randomly like, yeah, did you know the Companion Cube has dead bodies in it? And I'm like, okay, so we're just gonna get into it, because I do want to point out the parts where he's lying, because it's just like some weird fucking lies, you know what I mean?
Well, would you believe me if I said that the weight inside those weighted companion cubes came from the bodies of failed test subjects?
Fuck!
And dying predecessors?
No!
Hell, let's look at the evidence.
No!
What initially prompted this theory is the achievement you receive when you drop your companion cube into the incinerator during the first game. The name of the achievement is fratricide, a term denoting the act of killing your brother.
Before he goes on to explain, like, that is a reason. Like, I know that spurred the theory, so that's not really, like, a huge point, but, like, the act of killing your brother, throughout the game, you create a kinship with the cube, because it helps you solve that, helps you solve the puzzles that the 2 test chambers in the series that you're using the Companion Cube for. It helps you solve the chambers, so you form a kinship with it. Act of killing your brother, you were brothers when you were working through the test chambers together. That's I don't think it's haunted, but go on, MatPat, if you want to, use your explanation for that.
Seems like an odd choice of words until you consider that the thousands of test subjects captive at Aperture, the ones who used to live in the large boxes at the start of the second game,
fuck!
Like
He's got me.
May just have ended up
Shit, he's got me.
To a smaller, more disposable box.
Fuck.
Well, first, we know it's physically possible. Our Metroid Morph Ball episode showed that a human can fit into spaces much smaller than 0.1 cubic meters.
And also, 4 points for his, like, actual points for his theory. If they were putting dead people into the cubes and stuff like that, I don't think they need to get the whole body in there, you know what I mean? Like, if we're gonna be killing people, I feel like we can break some bones and compact them, like, very much, like, a human can fit in that, like, no problem if you were to just, like, break some bones, you know what I mean? But yeah, I'm supposed to be against him. I'm not working on his side here, let's just keep going.
Without even breaking into pixel measurements, it's easy to tell that a companion cube is significantly larger than any version of the Morph Ball. So physically cramming
okay, fun fact about that, actually. The companion cube, like, physically, for perspective's sake, when you're looking at it in first-person perspective in Portal, it looks, and the same thing goes for Wheatley when you're holding them and stuff, because of the way, like, the Source Engine holds objects, it will, like, look way bigger in third person than it's actually supposed to be in real life. So, which is the same for Wheatley, because if you ever look at Wheatley in third person, he's fucking massive compared to Chell. Like, she should not be able to pick him up. Well, I guess the gun's picking him up, but it's still, it's actually crazy. Like, because, like, in first person, he doesn't look that big, because you assume that he's closer to you than he actually is. So that's like unrelated to his point, but it's just a fun little fact about that.
a human into a cube is absolutely possible, but is it actually what's happening? To find out, we need to examine the way GLaDOS speaks about the companion cube.
Oh shit.
The Enrichment Center reminds you that the weighted companion cube will never threaten to stab you and, in fact, cannot speak. In the event that the weighted companion cube does speak, the Enrichment Center urges you to disregard its advice. If it could talk, and the Enrichment Center takes this opportunity to remind you that it cannot, it would tell you to go on without it because it would rather die in a fire than become a burden to you.
Now, GLaDOS is not our friend, and is far from a reliable source of information in the first game. In fact, most of what she says is false and meant to mislead Chell, thus her insistence that
he's gonna get into this later, but notice that he does use clips from Portal 2. When I was talking about this video to my friends, they were like, well, maybe he doesn't know the existence of Portal 2, and then I was just like, no. He brings up Lab Rat in Portal 2, and that's important. So we're just, that's a Chekhov's gun right there. Like, notice that he's using clips from Portal 2.
are A, unable to talk, and B, should be ignored if they do, make it seem like the reverse is true, that they may be able to talk and that their advice should be heeded. That's certainly the experience former Aperture employee turned test subject Doug Ratman experienced in the Portal comics.
So before he goes into this thing, about GLaDOS saying that, the point of GLaDOS saying that about the cube is to create, like, this, like, so the companion cube, and this is my thesis, so we're gonna talk about it right now. The companion cube itself is the test of that chamber. Like, yes, that is a hard puzzle to, that's kind of a hard puzzle to solve, but the chambers that the companion cube are in are a double test. Like, it's a psychological test as well. So her, like influence the player a little bit, or Chell a little bit, just to mess with her, saying like, oh yeah, like if it does speak, don't respond to it and stuff like that. She's just throwing in like red herrings and stuff like that just to put Chell on edge. Like, oh shit, if it does speak to me, da 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 da, because Ratman has this schizophrenic attachment to the cube, and like in Lab Rat, you learn that he's there during Portal, so it's like, and GLaDOS knows that he's alive and he's around. So the thing is, like, GLaDOS, in a way, is not only teasing Ratman for having schizophrenia, but also being like, hey, like, I'm gonna fuck up your psychological test, because you're working on a psychological test, you know what I mean? That's kind of what it is, that's the thesis, but anyway.
Ratman is shown to have conversations with the companion cube he carries strapped to his back, with the cube literally giving him helpful advice. In fact, the cube's advice is the one thing that keeps him alive. It even warns him against taking 2 pills labeled as Ziaprazidone, supposedly antipsychotic medication, except that the real medication would be named Zyprazidone, without the A. Careless typo made... So,
I'm gonna say this right now. Doug Ratman definitely has schizophrenia. He's got me there. I don't know why they misspelled the label. I couldn't think of a reason for that. But the things that Doug is drawing and the things that he says on the walls and stuff like that definitely lead signs of schizophrenia. There are even drawings of him, like, self-harming and stuff like that. He is drawn with, like, cuts on his arms and stuff like that. Like, he is canonically mentally ill. He has schizophrenia. The thing is, like, just because the cube was, like, helpful when he wasn't taking his medication because he was imagining what the cube was saying, doesn't mean the cube is haunted or actually, like, a person in there is talking to him. I don't understand, like, the general thesis that, like, the cube is haunted or anything, because it just doesn't make any sense to the Portal, like, the Portal Half-Life universe. Like, I guess maybe it could because of the weird shit that happens in Half-Life, but, like, in the condensed story of Portal, adding hauntings to it just doesn't make much sense to me. But anyway, so a little, like, input here by editing me. I actually did find some, like, medical places that do use this spelling of Zyprazidone. So maybe it might be a regional thing, I'm not sure, but actually he didn't get me on that. It is sometimes spelled like that, so yeah, just a little input.
by Valve, or perhaps another Aperture test that the Cube was aware of. While under its effects,
a
the Cube
test!
no longer talks, and Ratman almost gets himself killed without its advice. Seems like GLaDOS would have a vested interest in keeping people ignoring this useful source of information. And speaking of Ratman, throughout the games you see
I don't get that. Like, if GLaDOS is like, ooh, you shouldn't listen to the Cube and stuff like that, why would she give Chell a cube and stuff? Like, I don't understand that part of it. Like, okay, whatever.
many of his ranty scribblings on the walls. In his first chamber,
this is the best part.
Over the faces of various pictures. What many have assumed is just schizophrenic hallucinations or a fixation on the cube may be something
it's a special interest.
Different. Notice he hasn't placed cube images over just the faces of one gender, but both men and women.
He's bisexual! Yes! That's some rep for my bisexual friends out there! Oh my god, yes, he's bisexual! Alright, MatPat, go on, tell us about this rep.
The term objectum sexual.
Even more rep? Oh my god, Rip Doug Ratman, you would have loved BFDI! Oh my god! This is big. Watch, he's gonna say he's objectum and he's bisexual. Rep.
Is given to people who literally fall in love with inanimate objects.
Yeah.
Like this woman who dumped her bow and arrow fiance Lance to literally marry the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
Or this woman
Yeah.
who married
Legend
the
shit.
Berlin Wall. Talk
Legend
about your
shit.
awkward wedding nights.
Legend
now,
shit.
if Ratman was indeed in love with the cube and suffering from objectum sexual, he would associate.
Whoa. Suffering? Guys, I don't think this video is gonna be as inclusive as I once thought. I thought we were gonna be getting some rep for all my BFDI followers out there. I greatly apologize for him saying that insensitive thing. Let's keep going. But I hope he doesn't say anything about bisexuals next, because I put a lot of money behind that.
The cube with one specific sex, not plastering its picture over multiple genders. Additionally, notice that the
but it was plastered over multiple genders, because you can like multiple genders. I'm here for you guys. I'm really sorry for what MatPat's implying here about bisexuals, guys. I'm sorry. If it's any help, I do think Ratman is bisexual. So, shoutouts to my bisexual friends and people watching this. You always have me, okay? Just letting you know.
The calendar is of the Girls of Aperture Science, meaning that these pictures are of people who have worked at the company, Ratman's friends,
So, the thing is, like, why wouldn't they be? He's in Aperture. He's stuck in Aperture. Where else would he get any other photos? Like, that's like, there's such like a nothing point. Like, and the pictures of the people who worked there were the pictures he used. Like, yeah, me too, man, me too. And also, he was bisexual, but, you know, MatPat doesn't seem to care about that.
co-workers, people he loved and cared about. If they were dead and shoved into cubes, it would make sense that he would put cube pictures over the top of them and have hearts drawn around them.
Or, you know, he's making a good point here, but the elaboration's good, the point isn't good. Maybe, just maybe, since everybody he knew died because, you know, GLaDOS took over the facility, and the only thing that he has connection to now is the companion cube, because it's literally called the companion cube. It's the only thing he has connection to now because he's projecting onto it. Maybe, just maybe, he's making a connection there between this inanimate object and the people that used to be in his life or used to be around, you know? And also, what if he's just bisexual, man? You know, you're not even considering what I'm considering here.
And let's not overlook the message written here either. Quote, the weighted companion cube does speak. I'm not hallucinating. You are. Then...
So, okay. Now, if someone was hallucinating, what would they say? You know what I mean? But, you know, let's keep going,
Portal 2, GLaDOS asks,
I think that one was about to say, I love you. They are sentient, of course. We just have a lot of them.
Again, making allusion to the fact that the cube may be able to speak, but more importantly,
song is
describing
banger.
the sentience of the cubes. To be sentient means having the ability to feel and perceive. Sentient characters
song is
also
hit.
display desire, will, and personality. So to say that the cube is sentient
sounds
would
good.
differentiate it significantly from the likes of a turret, for example, which
Okay, you bring up Portal 2. You talk about sentience. And now you're gonna bring up like a turret who doesn't really have feel, perceive, desire, will, personality. But you know who does? Wheatley. The personality cores, it's in their names. So, like, let's say that the cube did speak and like, you know, Doug wasn't like actually hallucinating, even though he clearly is. Let's say that like the cube was somehow speaking. How do we know it's being haunted and there are people in it? How do you know that is just not a little bot in there? Because, like, you know, Wheatley, GLaDOS even being, you know, whatever.
may at first appear to have feelings and consciousness, but are in fact just programmed to respond to various stimuli in very specific ways.
Aren't we
human
all?
inside a cube, meanwhile, would definitely qualify as a sentient creature.
Oh well, we have warehouses full of the things. Absolutely worthless. I'm happy to get rid of them.
Throughout the entirety of
Hi,
both
Joe.
games, GLaDOS only
pet,
uses
pet.
words like worthless and useless to describe one thing: the value of
Yup.
human life.
Remember before when I was talking about smelly garbage
God, this
standing
song is
around
good.
being useless? That was a metaphor. I was
what is this
actually
song?
talking about you.
So not only has she opened up the possibility that the cubes can talk repeatedly, she refers to them using the same language she implements when talking about other human test subjects.
Boom, pause. So, GLaDOS uses this language for anything that displays any sort of humanity. You will also see her describe Wheatley this way, and she describes Chell this way because she's human, and then she describes the other humans that way as well. Chell is Ratman and Chell, we don't know about Chell if she's actually doing this, but Ratman at least is projecting humanity onto this cube. You can see with how he's plastering the cube on actual humans' faces. You can see it with like the way he thinks it talks to him. He's projecting humanity onto this cube. Not that the cube itself has humanity, just, you know, since he has a sentimental attachment to the cube, she's going to make fun of the cube the same way she would a human because it would upset the test subjects who are interacting with the cube itself. It's weird because it's like he understands it. That's the thing. You know he played it, he understands it, but he, like, you just know that this video was just to make a bag, and that's fine. I have nothing against MatPat. I love the guy. He's funny. You know. But what I don't like is people agreeing with this video. You know what I mean? Like, I like MatPat, not the fans of this video. It's just not something I really like. It's just not something I really like enjoy when he accidentally creates like this, like, his word is fact kind of thing, because he's funny and I think his videos are interesting, but you should never really take a game theory video as replacement for lore of something.
What she's saying and how she's saying it gives a strong indication that the cubes
this
may
song
be
is good.
more than meets the eye.
Is that
Then there's the
Megatron?
disintegration sound clip, when GLaDOS automatically decides that she wants to bump one of these cubes off. Listen to it a few times.
That is the sound of a radio being disintegrated. That is not the sound of a cube, that is the sound of a radio, and you can hear the radio playing. We'll rewind it. We'll listen to it with him.
She wants to bump one of these cubes off. Listen to it a few times. Can you hear buried in amongst the metallic clang a cry for help?
Do you hear that? It goes do-do-do-do. That's the radio. He's disintegrating. That's the audio for disintegrating the radio. So any human sound you hear on the radio, even if you do hear, I personally don't hear, but if you hear it, you know, all the power to you, because, you know, people talk on the radio. And also the radio had that, like, whole final transmission achievement thing going on where it made, like, weird fucking sounds. So it's like, you know, if a radio disintegrates, then, yeah, okay, sure, makes a human sound. Pfft, why wouldn't it?
A last plea from someone who has just been euthanized by an AI with no regard for the waste of human life? And finally, perhaps the most bizarre and unexplained coincidence of all.
The cube from
Unlike
Fortnite?
every other item in the game, a companion cube is never faced with the threat of a material emancipation grill.
This makes no sense, because his previous point was just when you disintegrate the cube, it makes a sound. But then his next point is, you actually just can't disintegrate the cube. Like, if you're gonna do this, at least don't put them right after each other, man. Like, let's be honest with ourselves. What the hell? But okay.
The Material Emancipation Grill, or grid depending on who you ask, is a particle barrier set up to disintegrate any unapproved contraband leaving the testing chamber.
Wait, was that pot?
Safety cubes,
Shell.
discouragement redirection cubes, and things that don't have cube in their name. Basically, any non-organic materials that are meant for that room and that room only. Why does this matter? Well, we've already discussed the companion cube's demise in the first portal, that unforgettable incinerator scene where our cube friend is
not
in the
the same
fiery furnace
incinerator,
before we can
but
even get close
okay.
to the particle grid. Then in Portal 2, the one and only chamber in the entire game with a broken particle field just so happens to be the same one.
In this chamber, she disintegrates the cube in front of Chell 2 or 3 times, depending on what you do. Like, it disintegrates right in front of you. How would she disintegrate the bodies instead of just the material of the honestly, I don't even understand how she just disintegrates the material like that too, but like if you're saying that like humans can't be disintegrated by like this way, it's like then okay, it gets disintegrated like 3 times in that chamber.
As the one and only chamber where you can interact with a companion cube? Coincidence? I think not.
What's the coincidence?
Remember that organic test subjects are cleared to pass through these barriers, while cubes are not. So if these boxes did indeed contain the remains of humans lost under the guise of scientific progress, should a companion...
If you disintegrate the cube and you listen to it, how, like... that means you have had to have put the cube through the grid. But the thing is, like, first of all, you put a radio through the grid. But second of all, like, wouldn't you know?
Companion cube passed through, the exterior box would disappear, leaving only the curled up human inside. In other words, the companion cube is people. So the next time an evil, dishonest AI...
Now, he made a lot of good points there. We can all agree. Bisexuals just weren't a thing back in Aperture. You know. Despite Wheatley. 2. If I said it disintegrated, no it did not. 3. Objectums are the shit, bro. Like, you know, this actually is a good video because it does point out some rep for objectums and bisexuals, but everything else about that it's like the worst video I've ever watched. Like, it's not the worst Portal theory. There is one that I do find a little more annoying than this one, in terms of just straight up lying to the people who are watching the video. But that's a battle for another day. Battle for a Dream Island. No, we can't be doing this. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about this video I didn't like. And how it was funny. But this video was 11 years ago, but also 12 million views with no pushback, so, you know. You know. Anyway, my final closing statements. I love Chell, I love Portal, and you should follow me on everywhere. So, yeah, bye-bye.